Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. This week, the Ontario government introduced a bill to ban the use of cell phones and other gadgets like handheld GPSs while driving. If passed, it would be illegal to make calls, send text messages or emails while you're behind the wheel. Newfoundland, Quebec, and Nova Scotia have already introduced rules to keep drivers from using handheld devices. Manitoba and Prince Edward Island may go the same route. But does all this legislation take things too far? For more on this Yakin' debate, Jonathan Kay, columnist and editorial page editor with the National Post, joins us from Toronto. Jonathan, good to see you.
Hi.
And Justin Prang is an avid cell phone user and driver. He joins us from Vancouver. Justin, good to see you.
Good morning.
Justin, how do you respond to the tests, the studies that say this talking on cell phones is not safe? The studies show it. How do you say let's then keep talking on our cell phones?
Well, most of the studies that I've read, and I've researched a lot on this subject, are showing that cell phone use relating to accidents in the vehicle is actually at the bottom. It's the very bottom of all distracted driving accidents. At the top of the list is eating and drinking while you're driving. And then the next on the list would be changing the CD or changing the radio station.
Justin, you're not saying drinking like alcohol drinking?
No, not alcohol.
Oh, okay,
just
I think there's
fries,
around the board people agree that drinking and driving ain't good. Okay,
absolutely.
Okay, keep going.
And so, I mean, the stats are out there. A lot of people like to throw that stat out there that says driving with a cell phone is equal to drunk driving. Well, that's hogwash. That's from a 1997 Canadian study that didn't take other driving distractions into account. And when you actually look at more in-depth studies, it shows that cell phones are at the bottom of the list, and yet we're going to pass laws against this. 98.5% of drivers with cell phones do it responsibly and safely. What about banning people from eating their burgers or spilling coffee on their lap when they're driving? That's more likely to cause an accident than talking on your phone. That's my opinion.
Jonathan Kay, how do you respond to that? We all go through the drive-thrus. Kids in your car, they say that's dangerous. Why should we ban this?
Yep. Look, first of all, you don't need studies to tell you that driving with a cell phone is dangerous. I mean, all of your viewers have had experience around the highway. They see some guy swerving. They look over, there's some idiot on a cell phone. So, you know, you can look at studies, but you can also look at your own experience. I personally, when I've used a cell phone while I'm driving, know that I become a worse driver. So let's put aside the studies for 1 sec. Let's just use common sense. In terms of eating, taking care of your kids, listening to music, look, people are people. There are certain things that they do. They eat, they drink. You can't legislate against human biology. However, taking a call on a cell phone is something you can do. Humans got along just fine without cell phones for the whole sum of human existence, minus the last 25 years. You can legislate it away. Humans will be just fine. You can't legislate away eating. You can't legislate away taking care of your kids. Let's legislate away what you can take care of and forget about the rest.
I agree. It all comes down to basic common sense. And I don't think that we should just go after cell phones because they're the visual, people's perceptions. They see you on your phone talking. Everyone goes, oh, look at that, a bad driver. They're talking on their phone when they're driving. But the reality is that guy trying to make a left-hand turn while drinking their Starbucks is more likely to slam into you than the guy talking on a cell phone.
Perceptions are important here because driving is a social act. You're sharing the highway with thousands and thousands of other people. There's a reason people become agitated when they see someone driving poorly when they're using a cell phone. They become more agitated than when they see a person who's driving poorly just because he happens to be a bad driver. That's because you look over, you see this person has made a choice that instead of driving with his full attention, he's on the phone with his wife, asking his wife to pick up the dry cleaning or something. That is an antisocial gesture. It suggests to the world, it's publicly visible, everyone can see him, the other motorists can see him, that driving with your full attention is not something that's necessary. The message it sends...
So it's a feel-good law then. It's going to make everyone feel good if we do this.
Because messages count. If the message that motorists are sending to each other is driving is something you can do, it's like watching TV, you can do 100 other things while you're doing it, that is not only an antisocial message, it's also a dangerous message. It means even the people who aren't driving with their cell phones get the wrong message about driving. Driving is a potentially deadly act. You're driving a 2-ton vehicle. If you're on the phone within a discretionary phone call, that's not something you want to encourage people to do.
But what about the point here, and Justin and Jonathan, the point here, the initial point that you were making, that this is a matter of, like, you can't legislate against food or anything else. That may be true, but you can legislate against people eating and drinking while they're driving. Why drill down onto cell phones?
Well, it's basically the reason I was talking about, that Cell phone use is something that's continuous, it's something that's more visible. Person taking a sip of coffee once a minute, that's fine. You're on a cell phone on a 10-minute call. First of all, unlike a coffee you can put down. Cell phone communication, it's real-time communication, it requires your constant attention.
Justin?
It's not something you can go in and
How
out of.
about,
Okay, Justin,
how
there's your
about,
in, go.
Yeah, well, actually, I have another issue with these laws is that they're all put into place. They're saying if we use hands-free headsets, that all of a sudden it's okay. Well, study after study has proven that hands-free headsets and Bluetooth does not reduce the number of crashes. It's not the act of actually picking up the phone and making a call. Your hand can be on the shifter if you're driving a 5-speed, or on the CD player. It's the emotional, the mental capacity of having an in-depth conversation while you're driving. That is the only issue. So if we're going to pass these laws, why is there an exemption for hands-free headsets?
You're making my argument for me, Justin. You're absolutely right. Studies have shown that.
I agree with that part.
Okay, so it's the social communication. It's the real-time thing. You can't interrupt a phone call. Say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on hold for 30 seconds. So it's true. The hands-free thing is not a solution. That's why I guess I agree with you, Justin. If you're going to ban one, you might as well ban both.
Jonathan,
Well,
what I'm surprised, Jonathan, to hear you say is you want to legislate, the government to legislate the behavior of individuals and in some way infringe on what they can do within the freedom of their own vehicles. You can talk to your kids, you can talk to your husband or wife, you can sip your coffee, you can but no, now you're saying the government's got to get into your vehicle and tell you can't even talk on a hands-free. Is that a little inconsistent, Jonathan, with some of the other messages?
Over the board.
Yeah, it's true. You know, look, here I am advocating big government. I'll tell you, this is one thing I freely admit this. 5 years ago, before I had kids, I probably would have been on the other side of the debate. Now that I got kids, I realize that the guy on the cell phone, it's not just the threat of him wrapping himself around a telephone pole. It's the possibility he's going to be talking to someone, he's going to T-bone a minivan at an intersection, kill a whole family. Yes, that's something that registers with me.
So basically you're saying big government can legislate behavior to protect things that are important to you.
The roads are public property. The roads are public property. When you drive, it's with a license plate issued by the government. It is a public act using public resources, and yes, the government does have a place in regulating that.
I think it's more an issue of just bad drivers, a very small percentage. It doesn't matter whether it's a cell phone or their CD player. It's that same percentage of people that can't handle it, can't multitask. Maybe they should be retested every year, something like that. Don't come into my car and legislate what I can do with my right hand, whether I'm changing my CD player, talking on the cell phone. I can do it responsibly, I can do it safely, and so can the vast, overwhelming majority of people out there.
Jonathan Kay, last thing, where do you draw the line? If it stops at cell phones and Bluetooth, Jonathan, where do you draw the line here?
Look, I say you permit anything that is natural that you can't get rid of. Drinking, eating, you're never going to be able to legislate against that. Look, I have a rule of thumb. If it's something you wouldn't do in the bedroom while you're being intimate with your spouse, like reading a book or taking a cell phone call, don't do it behind the wheel. Simple rule of thumb. People get drowsy, they listen to music at their most intimate moments. Whatever you do during those moments, you can do in the car, otherwise forget it.
Okay, wow. So the Kama Sutra okay behind the wheel? Yeah. Cell phones,
sometimes
not the BlackBerry.
with your loved one,
No BlackBerry. Certainly, I've learned that the hard way.
Wow. Okay.
Really, the hard way. So you've had an accident with this, yeah?
No, I was talking about the test I was discussing.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's definitely like to see. He's not talking the phone, but Jonathan Kay's got a whole lot of action behind the wheel there. Jonathan Kay, Justin Prang. It's a very important discussion, but thanks both of you for joining us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
Oops, I pressed send. We'd like to know what you think. Are governments going too far by banning cell phones in the driver's seat? Or does it drive you crazy to see a distracted driver chatting on a cell? We'd like to hear your thoughts on all the stories we bring you. Here's how to reach us. Visit us at cbc.ca/Sunday. You can post comments on our stories and discuss them with other viewers. You can also watch stories that you've missed and then join the conversation. You can send us an email as well. Our address is sunday@cbc.ca. And of course, you can mail a letter to CBC News Sunday, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, Ontario, M5W1E6.
I'm still thinking of that Jonathan Kay. Anything you can drive as long as you can do it in the bedroom and on the car. Okay, I still am thinking about that one.
Yeah, he clarified it though. It's like... yeah.
Yeah. We'll be
don't press send.
We'll be right back.
If you don't want that message to go.
That's it. Anything you can do with your loved ones.